and welcome to today's program as the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston hosts a conversation with Janet Moore, Council's Global Leader of Influence. I'm Sandia Bayou, Director of Development at the World Affairs Council of Houston, a bipartisan nonprofit organization focused on better understanding of world issues and how they affect our personal lives. It's our hope that you and your families are staying healthy. Now, more than ever, it is important to stay informed what is happening not only in our city, but around the world. The World Affairs Council of Greater Houston brings foreign affairs experts right into your home. And Janet is one of those experts. Janet, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really honored to participate today. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my absolute pleasure to have you, to host you, to honor you today. Thank you for all your ongoing support of the Council and our mission. Today, just wanted to circle back to you, reach out and check, first of all, how are you doing? How's your family? And how's Ray's business colleagues doing?
Thank you for asking. We're all doing remarkably well. My family's healthy. I'm very grateful for that. And at Rice Business, we're doing quite well too. We're looking forward to working with the students when they come in the fall. At the moment, we're planning to open our doors to welcome them in person, but we're also working on being available to students who need to attend online. So quite busy these days as we prepare to meet student needs.
So great to hear that everybody's well and prepared. Like I said, we all struggle through new challenges, but we also see opportunities in that. So again, all great news all around. Thank you. Janet, I know you've dedicated much of your career to the improvement of a community. You've been very active community leader, organizer, and are involved in multiple facets of us here in Houston and abroad. And wanted to just highlight some of the career accomplishments and very notable awards that you have received leading up to this point, and I'm sure with more to come. You are currently a full-time faculty member at Rice University, Jones Graduate School of Business, teaching strategic business communications to MBA students and running department as a director, and on top of that, a global executive coach and consultant. You are also involved in many professional activities, such as International Coach Federation. You mentor at Station Houston Entrepreneurial Hub. You're part of the executive committee and former chairperson of the Houston Committee on Foreign Relations. You also hold the title of the Honorary Consul of Georgia in the state of Texas. You've been selected 4 times as a National Endowment of the Arts panelist. I'm not even done with all accomplishments. You have also taught internationally, International Space University, care of Technikon University at Haifa, Israel, entrepreneurial mentorship, and the U.S. Army College. You have taught Rice MBAs on study trips to India and in Mexico. You have done numerous presentations and have also been published, such as in Wall Street Journal. You were selected as Morgan Stanley's Houston Woman of Impact. You truly, truly do a lot, as you see, and this is not even all the accomplishments and involvement that you have. I wanted to ask you, any best practices that you could share? How do you select what you participate in? Or how do you find time, of course, to have all those obligations that now you have selected to participate in?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that lovely and very gracious introduction. I am interested in a number of activities, and drawing on my organizational skills is important as I allocate my time. The older I've gotten, the easier it's gotten for me to say no to things that don't interest me and to really focus on where I can make an impact. I'm finding that I love helping whether MBA students or through my work working with executives and other leaders in communicating effectively. We're all going through really tumultuous times right now. The economy is in an uproar. We're facing COVID and many other challenges. And so communication is more important now than ever. I'm finding that a lot of the activities I enjoy the most involve helping others to communicate effectively as a way of making the world a better place.
That's very well said. Communications truly is, I think, number one way that we express our feelings and that we stay in touch with, or that it's absolutely a key factor. Noticed your setup. Can you tell me what is next to the flowers? The flag?
You will see the flag of the
Yeah.
country of Georgia. And you mentioned earlier that I do serve as the Honorary Consul of Georgia. That is my absolute honor and privilege to represent Georgia in the state of Texas. It's a marvelous country, one that I've grown to love dearly, and it's a passion of mine.
Wonderful. Thank you for letting us know. I don't think I've asked you before, but why did you decide or what led you to executive coaching and consulting?
I started my career as an international business lawyer and actually practiced law for 15 years. And then I moved into executive coaching and training and consulting, and then, of course, teaching at Rice. The commonality of all of those experiences is effective business communication. And so when I look back at my career, to others it might sound like I've done a variety of different things, but really I see a thread running through it, the strong thread of effective communication across cultures. Nowadays, we're called to communicate with many people that are very different from the way we are. They might be from a different background. They might be of a different gender or a different socioeconomic status. And so being able to communicate effectively is in many ways more important than ever in our multicultural economy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Maybe there are a couple of points that you would like to share with our viewership about your executive coaching practice. Some additional thoughts, perhaps, points.
Thank you for asking. Just like I love teaching at the Jones Graduate School of Business, and I'm honored to work with our MBAs. Similarly, I really am honored to work with many corporations and senior leaders as they face this time of change and helping them to communicate with diverse populations more effectively. I also really have a heart for working with emerging leaders, especially those who might have been marginalized before, and helping them to reach their potential. So I work in a variety of capacities, whether it's training, I do a fair amount of keynote speaking, and of course, teaching and executive coaching around those topics.
Oh, wonderful. I just recently, in preparation for this discussion, I glanced over your resume and really did not know that you speak other languages, Spanish, French, and Italian. Where did the passion for the foreign languages come from?
I actually grew up in a pretty international household in the sense that my father managed symphony orchestras. And although both my father and mother were American, we constantly were interacting with musicians, some quite prominent from other cultures, whether they were, Germans or French or Italians or Israeli, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. Early on, my father took symphony orchestras on trips around the world and State Department sponsored trips to Europe. Sometimes I would get to tag along on some of his travels. And so at an early age, I began traveling. I started studying French at the age of, I guess, in kindergarten, and then did my first study abroad program when I was 16. So I have for a long time been passionate about learning about foreign cultures. You may know that I went to the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown as an undergraduate. So early on, I made a commitment to studying and working internationally.
Absolutely. It's certainly, like you were saying, there's a thread that continues early on. Look, the foreign language was early on in childhood and has carried through and what he led to this better understanding and being a better global citizen, if I can say that. So thank you for that. As you know, education is a very important part of the mission of our council. Very proud, and we educate continuously, and we start with high school students all the way through universities, and we continue educating our membership and friends of the council all the way till later years, till they're ready and willing to participate. We always welcome them to be with us. We have introduced Student World Affairs Council chapters into area high schools. So proud to say we're almost 40, so 40 chapters in Greater Houston area. And some of the further questions that will come are actually submitted by some of the high school students that are part of this Student World Affairs Council chapter. So here we go. If you could provide your young yourself with advice, what would it be?
With a device, did you say?
Advice. If you were
Oh,
looking for
advice.
something, yeah, maybe there's a
Not
device.
advice. I'd say an iPhone. I'd had an iPhone
That
sooner.
too. That
Would have
too.
made my life easier. Yes, so advice. Well, of course, this won't come as any surprise, but it would, my advice is to work on your communication skills. The earlier, the better. It's interesting. We say to our MBA students, and of course, they're graduate students, but we say to them, your excellent quantitative skills may get you your first job, but it is your communication skills, your soft skills that will get you promoted. So early on, I encourage all students to work on their cross-cultural, multicultural communication skills so that they are better able to communicate with those from different backgrounds. Also, explore your passions like I did. Try a variety of different things. That will help you to find a meaningful career. And perhaps the most important is to focus on making the world a better place. I don't think it matters what your job is, whether it's a menial job or a senior leadership job. Every job can have meaning and purpose if it is done with a spirit of service and trying to make the world a better place.
Well, beautifully said. Thank you. What are your 2 or 3 simplest guidelines for interacting or getting to know someone from another country?
Number 1 is curiosity. Being curious about another person is one of the best ways to learn about that other person, and just ask questions. Ask them about their background, and after they've told you a story, follow it up with an answer like, oh, a question like, oh, please tell me more. I'm interested in that. So listen and be curious. And now for some practical advice. If, for example, you're interested in learning more about, let's say, Georgia, for example, you could, of course, call the Georgian Embassy in Washington, D.C., but you could also call the U.S. State Department, because there are something called country desks at the U.S. State Department, staffed by U.S. government officials that are specialists in usually a couple of different countries. And they're there and available to answer questions from you, especially if you're a student. On a local level, you can always reach out to faculty at universities that might be a specialist in the geographic region that is of interest to you. Sometimes foreign language teachers can be particularly helpful. And practice those good multicultural communication skills.
Wonderful. Now a little bit on a lighter kind of travel related. What country or location surprised you and was much more interesting or fascinating than you expected?
Well, you can already predict my answer. Of course, it has to be Georgia. Now,
Yes.
I will say that I've been very fortunate to travel throughout Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and all over the world. I've been extremely blessed. But I would add that Georgia really fascinates me and never ceases to amaze me. When I was lucky to be invited to be the Honorary Consul of Georgia a number of years ago, almost 5 years ago, I didn't know a lot about the country, and at that point had never visited it. Since then, I visited Georgia a number of times, and I certainly am very involved and connected to people at the ambassador and the other staff at the Georgian Embassy in Washington, D.C. I am constantly learning and amazed by Georgia. For example, in the charming capital of Tbilisi, not only is it incredibly beautiful, but it's very diverse. Every time I'm there, I look around me and I see people from Syria and Iraq, from Turkey and Armenia, from Russia, and from all over Europe. You may know that Georgia is a prized travel destination, and many people enjoy taking their vacations there. It's very beautiful. It serves delicious wine. In fact, it's the cradle of wine. They brought in some experts from Oxford or Cambridge, or maybe both, who did some carbon dated testing on some grape samples, and were able to prove, in fact, that wine, as we know it today, was invented in the country of Georgia. I think rice wine in China may predate it, but wine made from grapes originates in Georgia. It is a fascinating country, and it's also very open. Although a very high percentage of Georgians, I think 95%, belongs to the Georgian Orthodox Church, you'll find a great deal of tolerance. One of the oldest Jewish synagogues exists in Tbilisi. And similarly, the mosque there is shared, or at least was shared, by both Shias and Sunnis. So I think this shows the wonderful tolerance that is shared and expressed within the Georgian culture.
Oh, that's very kind. I think you probably know this too, that we have had a chance to bring our membership and explore the region, and we did make a stop in Georgia and Tbilisi as well. So it brings back wonderful memories to those who traveled, and those who haven't traveled as of yet. We would love to have you join us and join you. So any last thoughts for our upcoming global leaders going forward, maybe for them? What are some traits you see others should work on? I can imagine communications, and to help as global leaders of the future.
We are in challenging times. As you know, there is some division and turmoil in the economy. So young leaders are facing a lot of challenges. Of course, excellent communication skills and the ability to communicate effectively with people of different backgrounds, genders, races, ethnicities is critical, and particularly to understand another person's perspective. So when I teach my students how to communicate, I say it's not just what we want to say. It's not just about getting your message across, but doing it in a way that the other person, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of 100, can understand. And to do that, you really need to listen, and you need to understand the other person's perspective. To do that, you need to listen. So pay attention to your audience, try to put yourself in their shoes, and when you do interact with them, do it with an open mind and a spirit of giving.
Again, how beautifully said. And I have to say that the thread of listening, being patient, it's something I keep hearing through similar interviews and visits that we have had as a council. So thank you again for bringing it up and kind of having a full circle. Jenny, I think we'll conclude on this really well said note. We will express one more time our special privilege and honor knowing you. We're so happy to recognize you as the World Affairs Council's global leader of influence. And today's dialogue has certainly proved that global reach that you have, the global effect, and the wonderful accomplishments you have had. And I'm, again, so confident that this acknowledgement will be one more for you to celebrate and recognize.
Thank you so much. I am deeply honored that you have given me this award, and I'm very grateful for that and for your time today.
Thank you so much, Janet, and I wish you a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.